could do something. They were happy to show up when you did the planning, but the second you stop, so do they. So let me ask you this. How long are you going to keep pouring into people who wouldn't cross the street for you? How many silent weeks do you need before you accept that the relationships of a single person are not relationships at all? And what would it mean to stop settling for people who only want you when you're useful? I thought you were different. You said it with disappointment in your voice, like they betrayed some contract they never signed. But were they different? Or did you just project everything you wanted onto someone who never claimed to be what you needed? I told you about the ones before you, the ones who lost interest, who breadcrumbed me, who kept me as an option while they figured out what they really wanted. And you looked me in the eye and said, I'm not like that. And I believed you because I needed to. But then the texts got slower, the plans got vague. You started saying, I'm busy, without offering when you'd be free. And I watched you become every person you promised you weren't. The difference is you were just better at the beginning. Better at making me think this time would be different before doing the exact same thing. I'm not even mad. I'm just tired. Tired of meeting people who seem like the exception until they prove they're the rule. Tired of hoping this time will be different when different just means they take a little longer to disappoint you. I thought you were different, but you were just like the rest. You just had a better opening act. Mom, I see you looking at me sometimes like you're counting all the ways you think you messed up. Like every mistake I make is proof you didn't do enough. You think I don't notice. The way you apologize for things that weren't your fault. The way you say, I wish I could have given you more when you gave me everything you had. You're carrying guilt for a version of motherhood that only exists in magazines and Instagram posts that aren't real either. You weren't perfect, no one is. But you showed up. Every single day, even when you were falling apart, you showed up. You taught me what resilience looks like, what unconditional love means, what it takes to keep going when everything feels impossible. And I'm standing here because you never stopped believing I could, even when I didn't believe it myself. You didn't fail, you just loved me while you were still figuring yourself out, and somehow that was enough, more than enough. I could write you a whole book about the ways you got it right, the small moments, the sacrifices I didn't understand then but understand now. So stop carrying that weight. You did good, Mom. Better than you'll ever let yourself believe. He never broke down in front of me. Not once. You admire your father. And you're terrified you're becoming him. Not the version you post about the other one. The one who swallowed the apology so the house could stay quiet. You watched that man hold a job that ate him alive and come home with enough left to ask about your homework. You saw him sit at the edge of the bed at midnight doing math that never added up and still play with you in the afternoons. That's real. That happened. And it cost him something he never invoiced you for. But what else you absorbed? You learned that asking for help is a form of collapse. That rest is something you haven't earned yet. That love is measured in how much you can bleed without making noise. You inherited his resilience and his inability to stop. His devotion and his silence. And you've been calling both of them strength. He thought so you could have a life he didn't. That was the deal he made with the ceiling at 2 a.m. But the question is, are you living that life? Or are you just fighting like he did because surrender is the one word he taught you to fear more than pain? Your father is your hero. He's earned that. But the greatest way to honor a man who never put it down might be to finally, gently, put it down. Not because he failed. Because he succeeded enough for you to have the choice he didn't. Do you feel rested when you wake up? Or do you open your eyes already exhausted? Like you've been fighting battles in your sleep that you can't remember but your body won't let you forget? Because there's a difference between sleeping and actually resting. Your body was in bed but your brain never stopped. screaming about work deadlines, replaying conversations, solving problems that don't exist yet, running from things you can't name. You wake up more tired than when you went to sleep because rest isn't just about closing your eyes. And notice what you've normalized. Waking up tired is just how it is now. Reaching for caffeine before your eyes are fully open, dragging yourself through the day, collapsing at night only to do it all again. You've forgotten what it feels like to wake up ready, energized, like sleep actually restored something instead of just pausing the exhaustion. This is your body screaming that something's wrong. Burnout, unprocessed stress, a nervous system that never feels safe enough to truly rest. Sleep won't fix what's keeping you wired. You don't need more hours. You need to address what's draining you even when your eyes are closed. They text you at midnight, not to talk, not to see how you're doing, just, you up? And you already know what it means. And you say yes anyway, because you've convinced yourself this is what you deserve. That her attention, even when it's only physical, is proof she cares. That maybe if you show up enough times, if you're available enough, patient enough, she'll realize you're worth more than just this. But she won't, because she already knows your worth, she just doesn't value it. You tell yourself that something is better than nothing, that at least they're choosing you for this even if they won't choose you for anything else. But you're lying there afterwards watching them check their phone and you feel it, that specific kind of emptiness that only comes from getting exactly what you asked for and realizing it wasn't what you needed. You don't keep showing up because you're okay with this arrangement. You keep showing up because you're in love with someone who only wants you in pieces, and you'd rather have the crumbs than admit that you're starving for something they're never going to give you. That's not love. That's just you settling for proximity to someone who won't let you get close. You've never walked into a room and had everyone yell, "Surprise," with cake and candles meant for you. Never had that moment where people planned something just because you exist. You've accomplished things, graduated, got a job, made it through the hard stuff. But nobody ever looked you in the eye and said, "I'm proud of you," in a way that felt like they actually saw what it took. Like they knew how heavy it was and they were proud anyway. So you stopped expecting. You told yourself you didn't need those things anyway, that wanting them was childish, that you're fine without external validation. But the truth is, you're not fine, you're surviving on scraps while pretending you chose the hunger. And part of you is still that kid waiting for someone to show up and make them feel like they mattered. You deserve those moments. The celebration, the pride, the feeling of being enough. And just because you didn't get them doesn't mean you weren't worthy of them. Sometimes the world fails us, but that doesn't mean you have to keep failing yourself. You said it was just once, that you had it under control, that other people get hooked, sure, but you're different. You're smarter than that. You can walk away anytime you want, and it worked exactly how they said it would. Everything got quieter. The weight lifted for a few hours. You felt normal, or maybe better than normal, and when it wore off you thought, okay, now I know, and that would be it. But then Tuesday happened, or Thursday. One of those regular days where everything feels heavy again and you remember how light you felt that one time, and you think, once more won't hurt. I'm not like those people. I have control. Except now it's been once a week. Then twice. Then you stop counting because counting means admitting there's something to count. You're still functional, still showing up, still convinced this is just a thing you do sometimes and not a thing that's starting to do you. That's how it starts. Not with losing everything, just with once. Just with, I'm different. Just with thinking you're the exception to a rule that doesn't care who you think you are. You're sitting with your friends, the ones you've known forever, and suddenly you feel it. That distance, like you're watching them from behind glass. The conversations feel hollow, and you realize you don't belong here anymore. You're still getting the notifications. Still seeing the plans being made. The inside jokes you don't understand anymore. The references to things that happened when you weren't there. You didn't leave. Nobody kicked you out. It just happened slowly. You missed one hangout, then another, and suddenly the conversation moved on without you. They're still talking, still laughing, still making memories. Just not with you and them anymore. You try to show up and it feels like visiting a place you used to live. Everything looks familiar but nothing fits right. They're talking about people you don't know, referencing nights you weren't part of, and you're just sitting there realizing you've become the person they have to catch up instead of the person who was already there. You keep telling yourself you'll reconnect, that it'll go back to how it was. But deep down you know you're not losing them. You already lost them. You're just waiting for the right moment to admit it and finally leave the group chat. I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. What the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. You've felt that, haven't you? That crushing certainty that everyone else got the manual for being human and you're just and so on. Wrong. Fundamentally, irreparably wrong. Because you see people who seem so effortlessly perfect they float, they glow, they belong and you can't even look them in the eye. You want control, a perfect body, a perfect soul. You want to be special like they are. But instead you're convinced you're the glitch in a world that makes sense to everyone but you. And that feeling, it's not truth, it's shame wearing a disguise as self-awareness. You've internalized the idea that there's a right way to be human and you're failing at it. So you perform, you apologize for existing, you shrink yourself hoping maybe if you're small enough, quiet enough, unnoticeable enough, they won't realize you don't belong. But strip away the story. You're not a weirdo in a world of normal people. You're a person in a world of other people pretending they have it figured out. That specialness you see in others, half of it is projection. The other half is them performing confidence while feeling just as fraudulent as you do. Nobody belongs here. We're all just faking it. You're not a creep for feeling things deeply, for wanting connection, for being awkward or different or strange. The world didn't reject you, you rejected yourself first. And the only way out is to stop asking permission to exist and just exist. Messy, imperfect, human. You belong here. You always did. You walk into a room and immediately feel it every eye on you, cataloging your flaws. The way you walk looks awkward. Your voice sounds wrong. That joke you just told landed like a stone and now everyone knows you're trying too hard. Except none of that is actually happening. It's just your brain convincing you it is. Social anxiety isn't shyness. It's not introversion. It's your nervous system treating normal human interaction like a threat. So you overanalyze every word you said, replay that conversation on loop looking for proof you messed up, avoid places other people navigate easily because for you, a grocery store feels like walking onto a stage where everyone's waiting for you to fail. You tell yourself everyone's judging you, that they see through you, that they're all talking about how awkward you are the second you leave the room. But here's what's actually happening. They're not thinking about you at all. Not because you don't matter, but because they're too busy worrying about their own existence to scrutinize yours. So hear this. You're not broken. Your nervous system is just overprotective, trying to keep you safe by making you invisible. But safety isn't the same as living. And you deserve to exist in rooms without apologizing for taking up space. The spotlight you feel? It's not real, and neither is the judgment. You're allowed to be human without being perfect. You keep calling it a rough patch. How long has it been now? 2 years? 3? At what point does going through something just become where you live? Something good happens and you don't even enjoy it. You're already counting down to when it falls apart. Birthday, promotion, someone saying they're proud of you and your first thought isn't gratitude. It's, okay, so when does this end? Because it always ends. The good stuff visits. The heaviness stays, and you've been watching that pattern long enough to stop trusting the good days entirely. They feel borrowed. Like you're wearing somebody else's life for an afternoon. You tell people you're working on it, or getting through it, because that sounds temporary. Sounds like there's a version of you on the other side that's fine. But what if there isn't? What if the baseline was never happy? What if the default was always this and the good moments were just breaks in the signal? Maybe you're not a happy person going through a rough patch. Maybe you've been a broken person with occasional happy moments this whole time. And the rough patch you keep waiting to end? That's just you. That's just your life. Doesn't mean it stays this way forever. Just means stop waiting for the real you to show up. This is the real you. Start from here. You carry guilt like it's penance. Like if you suffer enough, it'll undo what happened. Like self-punishment is the same as accountability. But here's what you're not getting. That guilt doesn't heal anything. It just destroys what's left. You think punishing yourself makes you noble, proves you care, shows remorse. But watch what it actually does. Keeps you stuck. Frozen in the moment you can't change, replaying it endlessly instead of doing the work to be different now. The brutal truth? You can't heal the past by destroying your present. Guilt without action is just suffering for performance. Either change, or let it go. But stop pretending your pain fixes anything. They said school was the best years of your life. They said you'd look back and miss it, that you'd wish you could go back. But you spent lunch alone in the dining room pretending to text someone who wasn't texting back. Nostalgia's a liar. It airbrushes the loneliness, the bullying, the feeling of being invisible while everyone else seemed to belong effortlessly. People remember football games and prom. You remember counting minutes until you could leave, faking sick to avoid another day of pretending you were fine when every hallway felt like walking through hostile territory. Those people posting throwback photos, laughing about homecoming and football games and inside jokes, they lived a completely different experience than you did. Same building, same years, but you were moving through it like a ghost while they were making memories they'd romanticize for the rest of their lives. You don't get nostalgic about it. You can't. Because when people say, remember high school, what you remember is trying to make yourself smaller, quieter, less visible. Hoping no one would notice you were there, but also desperately hoping someone would. Counting down the days until you could leave and pretending you weren't. So when someone tells you to cherish those memories, remember, you don't owe nostalgia to a time that hurt you. The best years of your life aren't behind you in a cafeteria where you ate alone. They're ahead of you in rooms where you finally belong, with people who see you, in a life you built after you escaped. Your mom shows you a blurry meme she found on Facebook. You don't want to see because it seems boring to you, but when you showed her a crayon drawing of a house that looked like a blob, she put it on the refrigerator like it was the Mona Lisa. She reacted like every scribble you made was genius. Every story you told was fascinating. Every little thing you wanted to share, she stopped everything to pay attention. And now she's trying to connect with you through a pixelated image she found funny, and you can't even give her 10 seconds of your time, because somewhere along the way, you outgrew her. You got too cool, too busy, too important to care about what she finds interesting. Her attempts to relate feel annoying instead of endearing. You forget that she's still trying to be part of your world the same way she let you be her entire world when you were small. One day you'll want to show her something and she won't be there to see it. You'll have a story and no one will listen like she did. You'll realize too late that those boring memes were never about the meme, they were about her desperately trying to stay connected to someone who stopped looking up. So maybe laugh at the meme. Tell her it's funny even if it's not. Send her one back. Because one day you're going to scroll through your messages looking for hers and realize you can't remember the last time you actually responded. Let's talk about what we did to romance. We took something that used to require courage showing up, being vulnerable, choosing someone and turned it into an algorithm. Swipe, match, vibe check, situationship. Congratulations. We optimized love into something nobody actually wants. Because now we have rules instead of feelings. 3-month rule before you catch feelings. Bare minimum standards that somehow became the ceiling instead of the floor. DM slides replacing eye contact. And, what's your type? Reducing entire human beings to a checklist of aesthetics while actual compatibility, the messy, inconvenient kind, gets ghosted. Someone texts back within the hour and you call it a green flag now. That's where we are. Bare minimum gets celebrated because we've been disappointed so many times we started handing out trophies for basic human decency. Meanwhile you're swiping through faces like they're content you can refresh when you get bored. You have a type height, sign, aesthetic, a checklist built from Instagram posts instead of actual heartbreak. And real love, the inconvenient kind that doesn't fit your grid, walks right past you while you're busy deciding if their vibe matches your brand. We won't be young forever. You know this. Everyone knows this. And yet you're living like time is infinite, like the body you have now, the energy, the resilience, the ability to bounce back will always be there. But let me tell you, it won't. Because you're postponing everything that matters. The trip you'll take, someday. The risk you'll take, when you're ready. The person you'll tell the truth to, eventually. You're banking on a future version of yourself who has more time, more courage, more certainty. But that version, they're looking back at you right now wishing they'd started when you still could. You see people from high school getting married, having kids, looking tired in ways you don't quite recognize yet. And you scroll past like it's not also happening to you, like you're somehow exempt from the part where years turn into decades and suddenly you're the age your parents were when you thought they were old. The trip you'll take someday, the career change you'll make when it's safer, the person you'll become when conditions are perfect. You're building a life in your head that requires a version of young you're not going to be much longer. Your future self is going to look back at right now and wonder why you spent it waiting. Stop rehearsing your life and start living it before the only thing you're young enough for is regret. They got clean, showed up sober, said all the right things about making amends and being different this time. And you wanted so badly to believe that meant you'd finally get them back. But they're sitting right there across from you and you still can't reach them. The drugs are gone, the drinking stopped, but that distance, that thing that made you feel like you were talking to a ghost even when they were in the room, it's still there. Because sobriety brought back their body, not the person you needed. They're physically present but emotionally absent, still can't hold space for your pain, still make it about them, still expect applause for doing the bare minimum. You wanted a parent. You got someone who stopped using but never learned how to actually show up. You're supposed to be grateful they're trying, and part of you is. But another part is still that kid waiting for someone who never showed up. And no amount of them being present now can change the fact that they weren't there then. Some absences leave a shape that even their return can't fill. You're fine. You keep saying it. And your eyes are dry, so maybe it's even true. But something sits in your throat that hasn't moved in weeks. You're not sobbing into pillows. You're just and so on. Staring at the wall for 20 minutes without realizing it. Laughing at something and then feeling nothing right after. Going through every motion of a normal day while something underneath runs completely silent and completely underwater. That's the cry nobody sees. The one that happens at 3 a.m. when you're too exhausted to feel anything and too broken to feel nothing. The one that comes from grief so deep it's gone past tears, past words, past anything that could translate into something another person could witness and understand. And maybe the cruelest part is that nobody checks on you. because you look fine, because you've mastered the art of carrying the heaviest things invisibly. But silent pain is still pain, and you deserve to have it witnessed, even when it doesn't make a sound. Maybe you don't need to hurt yourself to feel something. Maybe you just need someone to actually listen. To see the pain you're carrying without you having to carve it into your skin to make it real enough to count. But the hurt isn't what you actually need. It's just louder than everything else. Easier to point to than the fabulous weight sitting in your chest that you can't explain to people who ask if you're okay. You've been carrying this alone for so long that you forgot what it feels like when someone actually sees it. Not the version you perform, not the "I'm fine" you rehearse in the mirror. The real thing underneath that you're too scared to say out loud because what if they don't get it? What if they look at you different? So before you hurt yourself again, try this. Say it out loud. Tell someone, write it down. Not because it'll fix everything, but because you deserve to be witnessed without having to bleed first. Your voice is enough. What are you doing with your life? The question follows you everywhere, at family dinners, in quiet moments, scrolling through everyone else's achievements. And you wonder if you chose your career well, if you're on the right path, what happens next? Does it all just end so on? Work out? 5 years from now, maybe 10, you'll have the title, the salary, the thing you said you wanted. And you'll sit in that corner office or that house you finally bought, and wonder if this was supposed to feel different. Because somewhere between choosing the maker and getting promoted, you stopped asking if you actually wanted this life. You just kept going because stopping felt like failure. So you optimized for success in a game you're not sure you wanted to play. What if you get everything you're working toward and it's still not enough? What if you succeed at building the wrong life? Do you keep going because you're too far in to turn back? Or do you admit you've been aiming at the wrong finish line this whole time? Your heart does it again. Their name appears and something inside you cracks open like it's the first time. Like all that healing you did, all that moving on, none of it existed. Your body remembers what your mind has tried to bury. And then someone just says their name out loud at dinner and your whole body remembers something your mind already agreed to forget. Chest tight. Breath caught. That 2-second free fall where everything you told yourself falls apart. You've had this conversation with yourself so many times. The logical one. The realistic one. The one where you lay out all the reasons it's never going to happen and you're not alone because yeah, you know, but knowing doesn't stop your pulse from jumping when their name lights up your screen. Hope doesn't negotiate like that. It just ends so on. Stays. So maybe the real question isn't why you still feel it. Maybe it's whether you actually want to stop. You're afraid of losing more people. To death? To distance? To them just waking up one day and deciding you're not worth staying for. And that fear? It's turning every relationship into a countdown timer you can't stop watching. You've lost before, and it taught you that nothing is permanent. That people leave sometimes by choice, sometimes by circumstance, sometimes without warning. So now you're bracing, keeping one foot out the door, loving people while simultaneously preparing for the moment they're gone, like you can somehow soften the blow by never fully letting them in. You're losing them before they're even gone. You're so focused on protecting yourself from future pain that you're missing the present they're offering you right now. Every moment becomes tainted with the fear of its ending. You're grieving relationships that are still alive, treating people like they're already ghosts. The truth you're avoiding. You can't control whether they stay, but you can control whether you show up fully while they're here. Loss is inevitable, but so is this moment. And you're letting fear of tomorrow steal the love that's standing right in front of you today. You say you're tired of your friends, that seeing them feels like work now, like you need to recover after hanging out. But what if you're not tired of them? What if you're tired of performing the version of you they expect? You're the funny one, so you crack jokes when you want to cry. The stable one, so you swallow your mess before it shows. The chill one, so you say you're fine with things that are quietly tearing you apart. They ask how you are and you give them the answer they're used to hearing. Not because they wouldn't care about the truth, but because you've been playing this part for so long that showing them anything else feels like betrayal. Like you'd be confusing them with someone they don't recognize. So maybe the friendship isn't dying. Maybe you are slowly, under the weight of being what everyone needs instead of who you are. And the only way out is to risk showing up without the mask and seeing who stays.